Call the utility committee meeting at 7:03. Taylor asked that we do something with the ordinance, and I was going to let him tell us what he wanted us to do.
All right, we started?
Yep.
We're here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I think Scott, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were the first who mentioned it Monday. But so in Bookville, we're getting situations where we have folks who have large water bills because they have multiple taps or water meters, some as many as 3 or 4. Some of the folks didn't even put them in themselves. They just are the last ones on the plot of land because of family moving, passing away, or so on and so forth. So, in my estimation, what's happened is that Athens County only charged $10 for them to keep a tap or a meter, but Nelsonville charges a minimum bill, which is for Bookville is $48.51, and after the summer it'll be, I haven't done the math, but it's like $51 per meter a tap. So in one particular case, obviously won't for their privacy say their name, but there's somebody who's on a fixed income of Social Security who has 4 total meters, one that they're using. And so they have over a $200 bill, and the person.
Do they have a sewer tap for each one of those water taps?
I don't know the particulars of that question.
Wouldn't they just be paying the minimum water, not minimum water and sewer for water tap?
So my understanding of the ordinance is that it is a full minimum bill for any tap or meter, but that's how it's been done in Nelsonville, unless it's a totally vacant house that's just fallen down to the ruins.
What I'm saying is, yeah, they have 3 water taps and 1 sewer tap. How come they're being charged for 4 sewer taps?
Well, we have one.
4 sewer minimums because
If they pull the trailer off, there would have been a sewer tap there as well.
Well,
yes, I think a lot of our cases are where a trailer or property used to stand there and no longer does. In Nelsonville, there's strong incentive to rip that meter out because of our billing structure. But under Athens County rules, there wasn't a ton of incentive for these folks to get rid of it. And so they kind of build up over time.
Yeah, because they want to charge $1,000 to pull them out.
I talked to our law director, and there could be, I think there is money left over from our loan to purchase that, and we could probably use that money to remove those said meters so that they don't have. Now that's something to look into, so that they could have the option and say, you know what, we'll just take the meter out, and there you go.
Give them a one-time offer for 30 days.
One-time offer to commit and say.
I haven't got any problem with that. The other thing I tried to find, and I didn't have time to find it, do we actually have an ordinance that says that we're charging $250 to take the tap out?
I thought that was the price.
I think we didn't. I don't know.
I couldn't find it. I was using my email to try to find it.
Let me see real quick.
1855 doesn't say anything about meter removals.
It just says about putting it in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't call it a change out fee. It just says a meter. How's it word, I guess, is my question.
Let's see here.
It's before I was here, it was interpreted as.
Well, I have no problem with the 30-day option and saying but we just can't offer it to Bookville. We have to offer it to everybody on our system.
Yeah.
If you have a extra meter and you want rid of it, we'll do it we'll not charge as long as you request within that 30 days, because we might not get them all done.
Right, yeah.
So the request is in.
Yeah, so you request that
on the
by
list.
30 days.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
But also got to find out if we actually are charging $250 to take a tap out.
We are.
If we are, then.
I mean, by ordinance. I know we're charging if we're charging by ordinance.
Yeah, but I believe like with Hunter, I believe I'm not sure, you have to check with him, but I think there was money left over and we could use that money that's left over.
Well, I don't think it'll cost us $250.
But we can bill it. You could bill it.
Right.
Against that and take that money back.
The actual cost.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not Gary Hunter, but I imagine it would require an ordinance to do what you're talking about, because council sets fees, and if you're gonna have an amnesty period, I imagine you guys have to pass it.
Right.
But if you do, I mean, so a couple of things that I would think that would come up is,
There's some people that's already paid their $250.
there's definitely some people who've already paid $250.
So we need to, if we're gonna,
Well, you know, I don't know about that. I think moving forward,
well,
you can't go
we
back.
ought to give them a credit if we're gonna,
Well, you know,
if we're gonna do it for one, and that we had people that were good enough to go ahead and pay, we ought to credit.
Yeah, there were some people who had means
Yeah,
and had the money in the bank account. The moment they call, I mean, I'm talking, we had one day, I think it was three people called in and said, hey, I got like the equivalent of like 3 minimum bills. What's up? Robert or myself or Judy explained it. And those people came that day with a check and was like, rip that baby out, because I don't want to have that happen again.
all right, so we gotta make that retroactive from the day we took over Bookman's water.
right,
Nothing before that.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
'Cause you could get, you know, net worth.
What was it, you know the date we took over the water, Scott? While I look back.
First. We took over March 1st.
March 1st.
March 1st.
We didn't bill till just recently because we bill a month behind.
Right.
The other thing that would come up if you guys do aim this like a one-time offer is I just had it. I just lost it in my head. Oh, would you go back to minimum billing, or would you go back to, some cities do just minimum water, just minimum sewer. I mean,
What do we charge the citizens in Nelsonville?
we charge a minimum bill, but we have some exceptions that we've learned over the years that don't get charged anymore. So example, if it's an abandoned house where the owner's been dead and we can't find anyone to bill, they're getting nothing. Whereas in Bookville, we don't have some of that know-how.
So if we haven't got a water meter in a pit, we're charging a minimum bill, regardless of who it is. If the water meter's been removed from the pit, are we charging a minimum bill?
If the water meter's been, no.
No.
Not if the meter's ripped out, I don't think.
No.
We have to take $250 to take a meter out.
Well,
No.
Athens was charging $1,000. We only charged $250.
Well, I'm just saying, that's to take the whole tap out.
No, that's to remove the meter.
If you remove the meter, you're taking a chance to have water stolen. I know people have done it. They stick a hose down it, they wash their cars, they water their gardens.
We do have, in my understanding, and I'm speaking as somebody new to the scenario, so if anyone from Bookville watching and thinks I've totally got the story wrong, just let me know. But we were told in the office that there were a few taps in Bookville that were being used for general use that really shouldn't have been. I don't know if that's currently being done, but you're right, there is some risk to leaving behind taps, and that's why cities like us charge for it.
Yeah, the $250 should be going and take the whole.
Line set and everything out.
Yeah,
Shut it off at the curb, turn the curb, shut off that and take the.
right.
So a lot of that's location dependent. So I talked to the guys about it, and for most of the places that's not a problem. However, we have some of them where we'd be digging up a street just to get all that out, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense
We'll
to
have to,
tear all that out.
we'll have to put an exclusion in that you can option for that. You know, exclude unless it's, in the city manager's opinion, it's not physically possible, then, you know, you just have to.
And I think they can put something on there.
There's a part for a lock. Well, most of those taps, when you spin it back over, there's two holes that line up and you could just lock it out.
And, you know, yes, someone can lock it off.
Lock those out, Scott, and the rest of them we can try to get out just as a policy wise, because so we don't leave them there so they can be abused.
Yeah.
When I was a 10-year-old kid, I've seen people that was stealing water like that have a lot that went empty and they put a garden on it, so they'd go over to the tap, shove a hose down in it, and start watering their garden and water their garden all night long. So I've seen it happen, and I just think we ought to do what we can to clean it up best we can. If you got a street you got to dig up, we understand that.
Yeah.
Well, we can lock those out. So we're good with that ordinance then, putting that in the ordinance.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And when he writes it up, or whoever writes it up, just give us enough time to, essentially timeline would look like to me, council passes the ordinance, my office and Scott would work together to generate the list of folks who's impacted. We'd want to contact them and say, hey, between July 1st and August 1st, we can remove this, or whatever date.
We gotta go back to March 1st, so let's say, could we get it done by July 1st, Scott? Or do we want to go to August 1st?
August, depending on how fast we get the ordinance passed. And if it's, because what is it, 2 readings in 30 days or something to that effect? I'm still learning my time frame, so yeah.
Well, I want to suspend the rules and whether you add an emergency clause to it.
And we get past it tomorrow or next meeting.
So, yeah, so if we suspend the rules, we could probably get that passed, if all council agrees, and then.
That way it makes it a less of a burden.
Yeah, so the citizens of Bookville could,
Add their name to the list.
yeah,
And if you made, so if it was next meeting, you'd want to do like June, the period where we'd be ripping them out is basically June 1st to July 1st.
Yeah.
So there was some time for us to get a hold of these
Right.
folks, if that makes
Right,
sense.
you would, well, I would say,
'Cause I don't want to rush them if that makes sense.
you have up until such and such a date to
I guess suspend
yeah.
charging the minimum bill.
July 1st or August 1st, Scott?
Let's do July 1st and get it done.
July 1st.
So June to July?
June to July, they can
Well,
go.
we're gonna retroact it back to March 1st when we took over. So-
Right, but your 30-day period.
Your 30-day period to
Well,
call.
you got till July 1st to request your meter to be taken out.
From June to 1.
Yeah, and it really should be in writing. I mean, you really should.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You should be in front of, since I hereby request my extra meter.
Yeah, it require it to
And it
be,
actually should be the property owner.
It should be a property.
has to be the
Yeah.
property owner.
Yeah.
So and this would be citywide or just Bookville or,
It's gonna be citywide because,
okay.
And honestly, guys, it almost should be notarized. If it's gonna be hand delivered,
well, as long as it's witnessed and signed, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, because just to say, you never know.
You have a letter in your office?
We used to. Hers expired in December or something.
That's something else we gotta do. We gotta bring up to reimburse the cost. The reason people are letting them expire, they put it over to the Secretary of State and the cost went,
Yeah. I think it tripled, right?
yeah, it's bad. I mean,
I think we can do that. I mean, Scott knows better about the actual physical job of it, but as far as administratively, we could do that pretty easily, July 1st.
Ms. Grant, got anything to say about that?
I'm a notary.
There you go.
What'd she say?
She's a notary.
have you did yours to the Secretary of State yet? Are you still through you gotta take a whole class again. It's $65 to take the class again. Then it's like $125 to get your commission. And then, when I was a notary, I never charged anybody, so it was like,
Mine's good till 2024.
just a question on it that you brought up that I didn't even know about. Do we keep a deposit forever, or do we keep it for a period of time like the electric company and refund it?
So two-part answer. We used to until, I don't know how many years, but it's been before I was on council. We used to refund them after, I think it was 9 months, and we keep them now. And the documentation that provided that change was, my understanding was an ordinance and then also city manager action. And we actually still have the original hand copies of those in the office.
Did we keep them or did somebody else?
Well, the actual documents?
No.
Oh, you mean the, oh, no. Oh, no. But, I mean, that's what I know about it right now. I mean, the practice has been to keep them.
Okay.
They usually are, they're refunded at the time of move out, changing account, or we have quite a few people who just leave their last bill go, and then we apply it to the last bill.
Right on. I think that's good.
I think that's good too.
Because if you refund it, then you have
Nothing to fall back on.
Yeah.
And then you're chasing a minimum bill or whatever forever, and you never get it.
The thing I want to do is I want to make sure Gary checks the ORC on that and make sure it's fine.
Give a little bit of background too, just kind of controversial. So when we had Bookville before, we refunded all of their taps on March 2nd or 3rd, 2000. And we have records of that. We went and pulled them all where they all got refunded back to everybody. It was all on the same date. And so that all went back to them. And then that's also my understanding that the county did not collect any deposits. However, they had a surplus of money at the end, which gave the residents of Bookville 2 months of free water and sewer.
That was nice.
Yeah, so if we're gonna be charging ours, they should have the same rules as our citizens in Nelsonville. So if we charge a $50 deposit to our citizens, Bookville should have to pay a $50 because they're new customers to us.
I didn't even know about this part of it, and I really don't care as long as ORC supports it, we can do it and we can keep it. Because I know the phone company, the gas company and all that, they can only keep it for a certain period, then they gotta give it back to you. And I just wanna make sure that we're not breaking any law, and as long as we're legal with it, in the end, the people's gonna get their money back.
Right. At the end, yeah.
Yeah, when they sell their house or when they die or,
When they shut the water, yeah,
Shut
when they
the
turn
water
off
off.
the service out. Yep.
Yeah, we don't keep it forever.
well, it might be a long time, but I just wanna make sure we're
Well, we gotta
good
make
with
sure
those.
we're protected.
And I'm gonna ask Hunter to make sure we're good on ORC with that, because I didn't, until you sent me the email, I thought the issue was the extra taps. I didn't know anything about the deposit issue. And I guess a couple people did email me saying, why does the landlord have to pay $50 and why does the tenant have to pay $50? And I don't know what they were talking about.
So yeah, I mean, city rule is, I'm sure Tony can speak to it. Well, actually, you guys handle the water bill, so you guys wouldn't, but the landlord will pay a deposit on all their accounts, and then the tenant will as well. And
Do we have an ordinance on that?
I didn't look for one for this meeting. It's been the practice as long as I know, as far as, I mean, because I'm a renter and have been my whole life.
And the tenants pay as well?
Yeah,
If you put the bill in your name,
if they put the bill in their name.
put their bill in the name, because then automatically when the tenant quits, it goes back into the landowner's name. That's
By
what
law.
happens. And that's why we keep all of ours in our name. And that way, when the bills come, they pay them at the time.
So they have to sign a landlord-tenant form, and it basically is like an agreement that the landlord knows and is aware that if their tenant shorts us on the bill, that they get stuck with it. And
Right.
Yeah,
Because
I feel like
ultimately,
it's
the
inside
landowner is
out.
responsible for the bill that's left over.
yeah, the landlord and the tenant has to sign it.
So-
Yeah.
We should have
Well,
a red V though.
Yeah, what most landlords do, and until we took, and my understanding is until we started working with Bookdole, we actually didn't even work with those forms a lot because most landlords already have them like not photocopy, but copied basically. And so they just have copies with their signature on it. And when somebody comes in and says, hey, I just moved on to Poplar Street, Robert just knows because he's been here. He just knows, okay, which landlord. They'll say, Davis, and he'll pull out Davis's and they'll sign it and notify Roy or whoever. But then, of course, working with Bookdole now, we don't have any experience with the tenants or the landlords there.
Right.
So the issues kind of come up again. If there's a better system, I'm open to it. I mean,
Just requiring the landlords to pay the water bill.
That's
It'd be
the way
simpler.
That's what it is here.
That's the way it is a lot.
Wasn't there talk of making an ordinance where we didn't even do that anymore, where just the water bills were in the landlord's names?
That's what we were just talking about. A lot of the water systems are doing that. I've been collecting water system rules to see how our rules go against other people's water system rules. If they haven't published online, I'll download them and so I can compare what we're doing against what everybody else is doing. A lot of water systems are going to not necessarily the landlord, but whoever owns the property.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
I had a landlord once who allowed his tenants to put it in his name, and they moved out. And this was before we had shut-off rules in place, and there was $1,000 water bill. And he went,
Pissed off.
he was mad, and he was like, "Are you kidding me? How did I know that? I didn't know this." And I went,
I'll tell you something that happened to my brother-in-law before they was doing this is it's the house that my daughter lives in. he got a bill put against him, didn't know about it. And somebody started talking about him on Viewpoint. He come down to the water office and said, what do you mean I got a bill?
Yeah.
I mean, hadn't even been, so we're doing better at getting those bills to the people that need to.
Robert tries to do a good job too. I mean, he has an extremely thorough bill printing procedure and bill sending that has 100 tasks. I mean, he does every personalized thing for every person you could imagine in town.
And he calls, if he sees an outstanding, like
Yes.
a high water bill, he'll call you and say, hey,
Yeah.
you got a $250 water bill this month, you have a leak.
Yes. And he'll be good too about with landlords. Now, some months it gets too busy and he'll miss a few, but like, especially recently since shutoffs have been impossible, he is stamping, a copy sent to property owner, and that goes to the tenant, and then he'll send a copy of that bill to the landlord, just so they know, hey, your tenant's $300 behind, and we think you should know.
That's nice.
Yeah, so that way we're trying to cut down on landlords finding out, hey, I got a $2,000 bill. At least they can see it. I mean, there's nothing we can do right now, but at least in the meantime, they can see that there's a problem.
Well, that's above and beyond. A lot of places don't even.
Yeah, and it doesn't print. They do not print conveniently in that order. So he hand picks them out. I'm telling you, he goes one by one, picks it out, says, I got to do something with this one, and it's good. Yeah.
We're all good on water?
Good on water. I'll get Gary on it.
All right.
All right, so we can have that ordinance on,
Yeah, should have it.
That way we can get this debt taken care of.
yep. Go ahead and attach,
I'm gonna have Andrea try to see if we got an actual ordinance that actually charges the $250.
Yeah.
She's gonna love me for that one.
well, if it's $250 in, probably should be $250 out.
Right.
Right.
I'm just saying, we should have it. Any fee we got by charter, the council's supposed to have an ordinance set to be.
Sure. And I'll say, just in my short time, I have yet to see a fee. Someone can send it to me on Facebook right now if they're watching, but I have yet to find a fee in Nelsonville that's higher than any other town. I mean, we used to have street ponds at $100. I mean, it's like.
Our Buckles water rates is a little high because they pay 1.5, but they're still in line with almost everybody else.
Huh, they're still cheaper than what they were paying Athens.
Oh, way cheaper than what they were paying the county.
So we'll get this tap thing straightened out. And hopefully everything will be good.
Right, then, actually the deposit's not a charge, it's just a deposit.
Deposit.
Same way in the bank account, I don't know the banks that open
Make you have a minimum balance.
Yeah. Now, on trash, we're moving the trash. And I got a question I want to ask. And I'll preface it by saying, the longer we keep the rate, the better off we are as far as trash in town.
Yeah.
So, with that regard on recycling, do we want to keep the same kind of recycling we got, which really doesn't cost anything on the bill? Do we have it, Scott? Do we have a place to do that?
Are you referring to the we have out here in City Hall and used to have down behind Advanced Auto?
Yes.
Right. That costs our customers nothing, other than they have to bring their recycling to the dumpsters.
Yeah, but in the meantime, that thing's overflowing and, we don't.
Well, we had talked about two things. One of them, we need an ordinance that makes it more legal to put anything in there other than recyclables. We may need to put a camera on it, and we maybe need a better place for it. And I just wanted to get that discussion started. Do we actually want to go to recycling at the house, which is going to cost money on the bill, or do a recycling like we have, even if we have to change the location somewhere?
What was it gonna cost them, about $1 or $2?
I bet you it ends up being 4 or
I
5.
think they said it was like $1 or $2, I thought.
So I thought the residents already had the option to pay for recycling if they wanted to.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah, that should be their option, and if we leave it the way it is, then that would probably be easier. And also, if we do I had an idea when you were talking about cameras at I probably should, at a dealership I worked at, when you pulled on the lot, there's a pole, and every vehicle that goes in, it snapshots the license plate.
Do that with a trail camera.
Yeah, it snapshots, it's motion activated, and it snapshots your license plate.
I have multiple quotes to improve the security of the building significantly, to include badge in, badge out security cameras for everyone, and to include a timekeeping system that would also be integrated into it. However, I have not had any luck, mainly because I've been busy doing other things, finding any grants to go along that. It's my understanding there's grants to go with that, but I didn't want to present that yet until I had all my ducks in a row.
Well, that's fine. We were just talking about, if we keep the same system we got now, where you can buy it or you can bring it over, we might want to find a different place than right here. And we might want to find a way to have a camera on it and we might want to pass an ordinance that says, if we catch you doing anything but recycling, you're going to be in trouble.
Well, I think we also
I don't have a
got
problem with that.
to mention something about if there's food.
Don't keep piling it in.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the reason it gets full, I think a bunch of stuff gets in there that don't belong in there.
It's trash.
Yeah. And if we have,
We can pick up all the rubbish that gets thrown on the ground or blows out of the dumpster because it's not shut. It's very much time consuming of the employees. You know, my only hesitation with the cameras, which I absolutely love cameras, with that scenario, we would have to watch the entire footage to find out who it was. It wouldn't be a motion activated event per se.
yeah, well, yeah, if we had a motion activated camera, then,
That's all we need.
yeah.
well, who's to say what's in the plan?
But I know, but if you start seeing a couch, you know, we're talking,
We're
talking-
couch in there.
I'll bet there is at times.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Dumping.
What?
We have people from other counties that put their recycling.
Yeah, we gotta prevent that too, Nelsonville residents only.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing for, no trash,
Nelsonville residents only.
Nelsonville residents only.
Frankly, it's about every week. And I mean, I even asked about taking them away, which I would like to do in some respects. On the other hand, I enjoy recycling as well. You know, just for the amount of time it consumes. And I was asking about trading those in for regular dumpsters. And that's when Rumpke informed me that they don't make any money on those dumpsters out there. That's why taking those away, what do you say? They're actually losing money on those. So to take them away and to give us other dumpsters is not an equal swap. He said we give the recycling to get the trash.
Gotcha.
Right, it's kind of,
It's a losing proposition.
it is a losing proposition, but a lot of places also have also charge what they call the franchise fee, and that's always been our franchise fee. So when we write the contract, we need to write it that you will keep them empty.
Yeah.
Because
Those dumpsters may
we
not be.
haven't charged the franchise fee, but our franchise fee has always been, you take the trash for the city property and you take the recycling for the dumpster. So we need to write the contract so as they have to be routinely serviced. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Also in for another year on that contract, if I understand.
Right, well, not now, it's like,
It's through December, I think.
Through December, we got 8 months.
well, it was for a whole year, March 1st. But we're down to 4 months now.
Well, I think.
And we're supposed to have it done by December, so that's why I wanted to start the conversation about,
Well, we need to start getting quotes.
well, we gotta get the contract right now.
All right?
Baby.
Good?
Other bit was very interesting. Waste to waste systems in particular wants to talk with us.
Yeah.
Waste noise systems.
There's another one in Caldwell. I don't know if they'll be interested too. J&J or something like that in Caldwell. And then I don't know if Waste Management will be interested. So,
I'm sure waste management.
we need to get we need to start on the contract and getting the contract ready to put out for bids. And our timeline was we would have the bids done by the 1st of January, and that the contract would be awarded, and then that would give them time to get their dumpsters moved in and out if there was a change.
I honestly think that, we have our dumpster emptied twice a week. Those should be emptied twice a week, Monday and Friday.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, they may have an argument that they're not making money on these, but I bet you they're making a lot of money on Nelsonville's contracts, so.
I think
I'm not sure it's a big deal.
That is empty
Pick this anymore.
Monday and Wednesday, after the weekend and before the weekend.
We'll just bid it out like that. Make your price.
Yeah,
You keep them well serviced, and
That's a
Yeah.
must, and that'll cut down on the overflow.
just tell them this is what it is.
Yeah. All right, good ideas.
Okay, so
do
then
you have anybody calling in, Scott? No one's comment?
I got nobody on the line. I'll double check for comments.
Nothing.
No comments.
So the type of fuel that we're putting back in our streets and utilities, it was suggested that maybe we need to switch to a CDF 50, which is it's almost like a concrete slurry, but it's a diggable fill. But it's denser, and it's fully compactable. Because what's happening is a lot of this 304 rock is settling after a while.
Yeah.
And we need to adopt a new system to stop our roads from sinking. When we done utility work.
Have you guys been up by Corey's house up on Fairview?
Oh my
Have
God.
you seen that water? That water is, and that's mine water, of course, supposedly. It is running wide open. And I mean, it is unbelievable how much water is coming out of that bank. It is.
Oh no, it looks like a little river.
It looks like a river. It's washing that road apart at the top of the hill. I mean, you can see the bricks now.
We're working a plan to divert that for now. It's not a permanent fix by any stretch, but it's my understanding we're going to put a storm drain up there and maybe make a little curb or some sort of diversion to get it to go in the storm drain so it's not running down the road. But Jason's working on that as we speak, so he'll be up there working on that with Delbert. There's a couple.
I was just up there today, Scott. So I was.
Has ODNR been up there?
What's that?
Has ODNR been up there?
Has ODNR?
It is absolutely on their radar. They have zero money, so it's a project in their system to fix. But all their funding got pulled, and they have no idea when any of it will come back.
Is that because of the virus, or?
No, this was before the virus even kicked off. I'm not sure what the trigger was, but Scott Davies has been very helpful in a couple different ways, but he's definitely got it on his radar.
All right. Do we have anything else?
Well, yeah, so that fill thing.
What's that?
I like to consider that fill thing as being a standard for utility companies to be
Put it back in.
Yeah,
So we don't have problems 6 months down the road.
exactly.
You're talking about gas lines and stuff like
When
that.
they're digging them up, they should put backfill that's not going to settle out.
If
And
you get,
it should be
Certain streets where
And that goes to our own
you
people.
wanna write that up?
Huh?
You wanna write that up and get it to Hunter?
Scott, yeah, write that up, get the Hunter for me? Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, that-
Other things, you guys.
Go for it.
Go for it.
So water rates, I did as directed, or as we talked about during the last meeting, as far as matching the water rate increase, the same as the sewer rate increase, effective 1 June. So that's in place. To give you guys an update on that. So I got a couple requests. So the first one is the census meters equipment. So our handhelds that go out and read all the different meters are very much obsolete, and we have lots of issues with them. So we have a quote from last year to replace the handhelds and the wands, which would cut our meter reading time down from 5 days to 2.5 days. And it was $10,000 for those handhelds, wands, and some other piece that says auto gun swivel. I don't know what that is. It was the cheapest thing on the list. So I would like to ask for your thoughts and consideration on that.
I think anything that cuts a job in half allows for more time to do something else. I mean, so the guy who's reading the meters with the extra time, he's part of the water crew, right? Or the street department, which one is it?
Water crew.
The only reservation I have on that, Scott, is I had talked to a census guy that said that they had newer equipment that would ping off of each other, and you could actually drive around in a truck in about an hour and a half and read all your meters. And
It's my understanding that's the capability we're going to get with this. I can confirm that if you'd like.
Yeah, I would just like to, if we could start moving to those, the census ones that ping off of each other. And I had a guy that read water meters for another system. He said he'd read them for 4 or 5 miles. It was a big world system, and they were pinging off each other. He'd read them for 4 or 5 miles. He'd pull up to one spot, and his laptop would just light up with all the readings from. And if we could. The importance, if we could do that, we could actually mount that computer in a vehicle and be real-time informing people when they had a water leak. I mean, in that system, somebody don't have to go a month with a bad water leak. They go 2 or 3 days, and their computer lights up, and they call them up and say, "Hey, you got a bad water leak." And if we can start moving to something that helps people out like that, that'd be,
I would just say, I would say on this point, I think we ought to look cautious a little bit right now until July. We don't know what we're gonna have. Am I correct, Taylor? I mean, we won't really know anything until July.
That's right. I mean, we're still I actually plan on soon sharing with either finance or all of council a survey of auditors' responses to revenue expectations for the next year. And it's pretty broad. I mean, we're really unsure what's going to happen.
Exactly. So, I mean,
I'm
all for upgrading the employees, giving them the equipment that they need. I think we need to just look at what else.
Yes, I think you're right. I think we need to look and see what we're there.
All right, water and sewer, but.
Yeah, we're all right in water and sewer, but the thing is anything that cuts down on time, that means there's time that can be used somewhere else. And Lord knows we got plenty of things to do.
I just think we need to.
Yep.
You're only talking about 2.
That's something that we might be looking at too, with that 50% loan forgiveness on water improvements. Maybe we could do something with the whole village of Bookville with auto reads and everything, and then get 50% of our money loan forgiven.
I think Stantec was working on it, wasn't
He was.
Right.
Yeah.
We should find out in June on if we got that approved or not. I believe it was $340 or $350,000.
Right.
Mike was working on that, so maybe it'd be good if we could start moving to a whole system where we're able to notify people in real time. And
Well, those four. I just think we need to be cautious until July.
Right. And especially if we can get 50% given back to us.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that we need to do it, and I agree that we need to.
I see what you're only talking 2.5 months.
Do what?
You're only talking about 2.5 months.
Right.
Yeah. What else, Scott?
What do you got?
So, manholes. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a huge hole in Washington Street over by Madison Street.
Yeah.
So we got a bid to have that repaired by a contractor, and the bid was $14,000 and some change. And talking to the guys here, they said, why don't we just do that ourselves, which I was really impressed by that. And we can replace that one. And there's a bad one next to Rocky that the bottom's out of it, and another one by Subway for $7,500, all 3 of them.
I'll bring a preparation
Yep. Well, yeah, that's a no-brainer.
for next council meeting.
Yep.
And then the last one I have for you is trench safety. So with all the digging in town, all the contractors, it's in how we do business, it's brought to light the trench safety issue that we have. So we have some really old steel boxes that go down in the hole to protect our guys. which are extremely cumbersome to move around and require double the amount of equipment to load it up, haul it, and unload it. So we're looking at options to get birch boards and hydraulic jacks specific to the trench. We believe, and I don't have exact numbers, I just wanted to make you guys aware of what we're working on. We believe we could sell the two that we have and almost pay for the new ones if that's allowable. The other added benefit to having that, other than ease of use and a lot more realistic for what we do in water repairs and the size of holes we work in, is it also will enable or give the equipment, the fire department access to that equipment in the event that we do have a rescue with all the deep trenches that we have happening now. You know, we got 20 feet getting ready to start in a couple different places. So I just want to put that out there, let you know we're looking at it and thinking about it, and we hope to have you some firm numbers by the next meeting.
I've always been a firm believer in those steel cages, but I mean, I guess if there's a new system out there that is just as safe,
Yes, or safer.
you know,
And one caution on that,
I remember
city-wise or municipality-wise, the person in charge of okaying those systems is the industrial commission. And you want to check anything you do on that regard with the industrial commission to make sure it's approved, because if somebody gets hurt, even if it's not somebody's fault, and you're breaking an industrial commission rule,
We're done.
Katie bar the door. So, OSHA and the industrial commission, and I guess what I'm saying, what can be approved by OSHA is not necessarily always approved by the industrial commission. So, they're in charge of safety rules for municipalities.
you know, our company's big on safety, and, you know, all of our employees are taking 32 hours of OSHA training and recertifications, and we have safety meetings all the time. So,
We
I
actually
mean,
have another person come in and do it like a inspection on it. Identify what we're lacking, and we can develop a plan to get all those features put into place.
Yeah.
so
I just think it's time.
Definitely. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and Taylor and I didn't have a full chance to talk about it for discussion, but right now with the duties split, so by ordinance, you know, Taylor has the water department. However, all the decisions fall on to the city manager as far as adjustments go and that sort of thing. So we talked about consolidating that and either moving it one way or the other, either that decision authority go over to Taylor's side or the water department coming back to this side, or do you guys think it's better off keeping it separate? Just your thoughts on that.
You can get it all if you want, but I think that
I think there's checks and balances in the way right now.
if you look at,
I think the biggest thing, and I got just a brief second to mention it to Scott earlier. I think the biggest thing will be, and maybe council will just allow us to set this up, or maybe you guys want to review it. It's really up to you. But setting up a procedure, because I do agree there's good checks and balances here and in the current setup. But the problem is giving too many off ramps. So especially if you're thinking about like accounts that we frequently have complaints on over and over daily, they know just by training that they can off ramp the city manager. You know, they call in, they get Judy. Judy says, no, I can't forgive that for you. They say, I want to speak to the city manager then, because by charter, the city manager makes the final adjustment call. And so maybe there needs to be a procedure where it's like, well, maybe you can get a ticket and the city manager will review your ticket in time or something like that, to where they're not immediately calling 1314 and getting Scott's phone number, if that makes sense.
you can do it all, but by charter, you have to.
And
The city manager has to.
Yeah.
So whether he talks to you about it ahead of time, that's up to him.
Yeah.
And what procedure you guys work out on that, that's up to the city manager at the time. But I think both the charter and higher by scope put the city manager as the final say.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not eager to get.
he's no budge.
So you just have to work that out with Tanner, but you got the final on it.
Oh, he's no.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's really, you know, Taylor and I don't do anything without talking to him and the guy, and vice versa. We're very much in lockstep. So the customer gets the same result no matter what. We're just trying to streamline that process a little bit, but if it's the way it's going to be by charter and checks and balances, no issue. We'll just keep on chuching along with that.
Yeah, I think a ticket because there are some folks who know that off ramp exists. If we train in my office to make sure those individuals keep those complaints internally as hard as possible, and then if they really are just belligerent, then we can say, because the thinking is Scott's super busy, and so if we do ticket process or something that allows him to not be immediately burdened by complaints, I think that would be most helpful.
That's up to Scott, what he wants.
Yeah, that is his call. Yeah. That is.
You can set up any procedure you want with Sam, it's your call.
Yep.
Tim, we're good.
The software system locked in for work orders and purchase orders and fleet management. So we're locked in on that now. And you will, I believe what you just said, Taylor, probably a good idea. If it's that big a deal, just create a work order and route it straight to me. And then we'll set a timeline, 2 days or 48-hour turnaround time on those types of tickets.
Yes, Sam call, sure.
I think too, and this is something I wasn't planning to mention tonight, but after seeing 5 or 6 cycles of this, I guess not 6, but 4 or 5 cycles of this, I'm beginning to think our billing period is too short. And this is going to sound random, but some of these problems come up because somebody calls on the 8th of, say, May. They say, hey, my bill's $150 and it shouldn't be, whatever. And they need it fixed right then because bills are due within 48 hours. And so I actually think our billing period is pretty short. Our bills go out 25th, 26th, and they're due on the 10th. So maybe it would help, Scott, if we made them due on the 15th instead of the 10th, and there was more time to process water leaks and stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's just the billing process seems very rushed once they're sent. Our billing time is like 13 days, whereas AEP gives you 26 or 28. So it's just something to think about in the future.
Electric bill? You don't even get 2 weeks on your electric bill.
Yeah.
I have 2 weeks.
Comes on the 27th, I think, to do the meeting.
And it's due the 14th or something like that, or 11th, 10th.
I've got, when I get mine, I have 13 days.
Oh, maybe that's I don't think mine's
You don't have to pay 10% penalty though if you pay it a little late. I mean, that's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about,
trying to avoid.
I think if you think about the cable company, theirs is due on the same day, but typically I get mine on the 20th or 21st, if I remember, whereas we get ours about a week later for water. So it seems short, but I could be wrong.
I don't know, we got 13 days, I mean.
Anything else? We done? All right, we got anybody wanting to talk? We're adjourned then.
Shut her down.
Shut her down.